And the source is the Washington blog, and it's one of Germany's biggest newspapers, Spiegel. It reports former President Jimmy Carter, in the wake of the NSA spying scandal, criticized the American political system. He says America has no functioning democracy, Carter said Tuesday at the meeting of the Atlantic Bridge in Atlanta. Many other high-level U.S. officials have also warned that the U.S. is no longer a democracy. Carter also said the moral authority of the U.S. has sharply declined due to excessive restriction of civil rights. And like other many top American officials, Carter says that Edward Snowden's revelations do not harm the national security, but are useful. So you may want to read more on that as your schedule permits. And moving into the health insurance arena, uh, from the Washington Examiner, 74% of small businesses will fire workers or cut hours under Obamacare. Well, you know that if you do not have full 40 hours a week, you do not qualify for health insurance benefits with your employer. There's a lot of employers out there right now that are making use of that to avoid paying benefits. And they keep the employee for an indefinite amount of time just to save money and stay in business. This is saying that 74% of the small businesses will do this. And despite the administration's controversial decision to delay forcing companies to join Obamacare for a year, 3/4 or 74% of small businesses are still making plans to duck the costly law by firing workers, reducing the hours of full-time staff, or shift many to part-time, according to a sobering survey by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Small businesses expect the requirement to negatively impact their employees. 27% say that they will cut hours to reduce full-time employees. 24% said they will reduce hiring, and 23% plan to replace full-time employees with part-time employees to avoid triggering the mandate, said the Chamber Business survey provided to Secrets. Under Obamacare, just 30 hours, not the nationally recognized 40 hours, is considered full-time. Companies with 50 full-time workers or more are required to provide health care or pay a fine. So the fine, I think, is like $700 a year that you don't cover a person for insurance. And anyway, that's in the news today. And moving on, we have a heat advisory, and guess who's catching the heat? Maybe there's a lot of hotheads in Washington, D.C., but a heat advisory for Washington, D.C. coming out of Richmond, Virginia. A heat advisory will be in effect today for most of central, eastern, and northern Virginia between noon and 6 p.m. The heat advisory for parts of northern Virginia lasts an extra hour until 7 p.m. After a string of increasingly hot and humid days this week under a dome of high pressure parked over the eastern U.S. today, will likely be our hottest day of the heat wave. This afternoon, you could expect thermometer highs in the mid to upper 90s and the heat index values in the range of 103 to 110 degrees. This means that for hours this afternoon, your body will have a tremendously difficult time keeping a safe body temperature outdoors. UV index is also very high today, with the most UV rays occurring between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. So that's in the news, and that concludes our news segment of our show today. And as you can see, we had a diverse number of news items to report, and we do report these things in a timely basis, and we do try to give each one a liberal amount of coverage, and so it can be fair and balanced. And we just don't draw all our news from one source. We cover the gambit of network news and also other sources as well worldwide. Now we're moving into our commentary part of the show, and this show deals heavily with the news items and how they relate to man and how they have been predicted in prophecy as according to the Holy Bible for years and thousands of years ahead of time. And you may say, well, how does a woman getting struck by lightning in a supermarket relate to the Bible? Well, we'll explain that in just a moment. Or how do kids being poisoned relate? Or how does China being sent to Chinese soldiers being sent to Africa have anything to do with anything? Well, we can move into these items and we'll take them as we can get to them. First of all, fires out in the West and the Midwest. Those are what the Bible would normally call as pestilences. And it says that in the end times, the pestilences will increase in number. And when I was a kid, there was no such thing or very little reported about wildfires in the West. But since then, a lot of building has occurred out in the outskirts of the cities, and the suburbs have expanded out into the wilderness. And these fires have now become more prevalent and more destructive, and have also turned on man, so to speak, as a penalty for him enjoying the pleasures of living out in nature. So, in other words, man moved into harm's way by placing himself where he placed himself, and that is a pestilence. And the Bible has clearly predicted that pestilences will increase. It also indicated that knowledge will increase. So before technology allowed these people to move out into these wildernesses, they were contained within the urban environment, close to where the firefighters were, and in close proximity to where they could be handled in a more efficient manner. Now you're looking at, well, how does Bible prophecy relate to the Indian school deaths? Well, again, it comes down to pestilences again. When you have potatoes and other things that have gone bad and they have been poisoned, or they have been pesticides have been used to control insects. There's man's knowledge again. He's trying to redeem himself from the curse that was placed on him, mankind, when Adam and Eve fell in the Garden of Eden, and God cursed the ground. And God cursed the ground, and he says, by the sweat of your brow you shall eat your food, you know. I was telling Adam that. And out of the ground came weeds, and out of the ground came other things that would cause him to forevermore have to sweat to make or gain the food, glean the food from the land to be able to even eat. So that is a part of pestilences as well. The woman in the checkout line where that got struck by lightning, the baby was spared, but the woman was struck. Well, everyone knows that if you're in a metal cage, you're in a safe place, you know, away from electricity, because the metal cage will draw the electricity away from you. However, the woman standing in the checkout line, she was doing a normal thing. She wasn't any more evil than anyone else. She had not done anything special to cause God to send a thunderbolt or a lightning bolt through the window. But in this day and time, mankind has adversely changed the weather and changed the weather patterns so much that it's an indirect result of what man has done to the earth. And man has tried to put himself above God by trying to make technology as God, and as a result has caused these weather patterns to change and has effectively brought this on in a very indirect way. You can say it's another unforeseen circumstance of a number of different things that happened that caused this lightning bolt to occur and to strike this lady who was in the checkout line. And moving on to China sending in their troops into Africa, that is predicted by the Holy Bible, is a part of prophecy. And it's predicted that China will have a big part in the Battle of Armageddon, which some of us may call World War III. Armageddon is the war of all wars. They said World War I was the war of all wars, and so end all other wars. But then World War II soon followed. So then they didn't say it after that. Now World War III is in the making right now. We have the Syrian we have the Syrian fighting going on. We have the Muslim Brotherhood that's trying to take over the Middle East and export Islam. And we have also unrest in a lot of other countries in that area, and especially all of them trying to target Israel and to eliminate it from the face of the earth, especially a militant Iran that is seeking to do so. And Iran is not a real close friend of the Islamic Brotherhood. In fact, Syria and Iran are not really close friends. And we can look at that and say, well, Iran really doesn't have a lot of friends, in the Muslim community. They are looked upon and frowned upon, even worse than the United States in some cases. So, we've got world disorder and chaos and wars and rumors of wars. And we've got the Chinese that are going to make their way as from the kings of the east, and they're going to cross over the river Euphrates when it dries up, and they're going to march into the valley or Megiddo, which is going to be the Battle of Armageddon. And they're going to have a 1,000,000-man army to go in to handle that issue. And only the Chinese can field such an army at this time. Also, with the heat advisory and all that that's out right now in the D.C. area, that's another wild weather pattern that is a result of many things that man has done to inflict damage on this earth that God placed here for man to live on. And as a result, he has indirectly brought these calamities upon himself. So anyway, God is punishing this country. God is sending some shots across the bow of the boat. He's saying, turn back from your wicked ways and remember him. Instead of trying to eliminate him, honor him, because he's the one that brought this country up from nothing into making it to what it was, or what it was at its zenith, and now it's being broken, it's fallen apart because of the cultural decline and the cultural descent into a pit of decayed morals. So we have to look at that. I mean, you heard in the Trayvon Martin case where they said those women on the jury was old school. Well, that goes back to old morality versus new morality. Old morality says, let's do it by what we say, the right way and God's way. And new school says, let's do it the human way, our way, where we make the rules and the laws. So therefore, you have that still in the culture, and it's been brought to the surface again. And I'm glad it has been, because that is exactly what needed to be done. It needed to be brought to the surface and shown that there are two schools of thought in this country. One is the traditional, let's do it right, let's do it by the tried and proved methods, and the other is, let's do it our way. And let's do it our way and our way every day. Also, with the thing with former President Carter saying that we're no longer a functioning democracy, that's exactly what they're trying to do to this country, is break it down and to bring in the the North American Union. They're wanting to tear down every vestige of America and try to make the Constitution